So, have you heard about this Terrifier 3 movie that seems to be getting a lot of buzz? And were there a first two, or is this like an ironic name?
That would be funny, but no, there are two other ones.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about this franchise. The clown has a name, which I'm blanking on, and apparently he's very charming, and also the movies are apparently super, super brutal in the sense that they're very violent, very gory. And when the second one came out, I think last year or the year before, there was headlines like, "Oh, people leave theater in ambulance. People have been having panic attacks while watching this movie." And the buzz is the same around the third one. Although people said the same thing about Psycho, and that was a publicity stunt. So I don't know if people actually are I don't know if people actually are having panic attacks and heart attacks and stuff watching this movie, but it has a reputation for being pretty gory. That's pretty much all I know about it, Mike. I do know that it's becoming a bit of a cult following. Maybe not even a cult following. It's in its third movie, so it could be a huge thing for all I know. And hopefully there is someone, or I can just go on Google, but maybe our listeners have been watching the Terrifier movies. I was on Amazon sleuthing for what I was going to watch this weekend. As viewers will, or sorry, as listeners will find out, there wasn't a lot to watch. But
Yeah.
anyways, there was like there was oh, I think the name of the clown is Art the clown. And there was one movie I saw, and I don't, forgive me, I don't remember the name of it now, but Art the Clown was on the poster, and it wasn't a Terrifier movie. Like, it had a different name. So
Oh,
I wonder if the character is in other movies. I don't know. I'll have to Google it later. And that was a very long tangent, Mike, for a very simple question you asked. But I know
well,
more than you do.
yes, yeah, because Nicole, friend of show, friend of Taylor, sent to us on Instagram like a meme about it, and basically thinks that I might hate the movie. Which again, we've been tossing hate around a lot recently on this show. So if I would hate it, then there would be again certain elements in it that I would hate. The thing about body horror is I'm like fine with it if it works. Like if it's
I
like the
don't think
first
this
Saw
is.
movie, you know what I
I
mean, as
don't
opposed
think
to
this is body horror. I think this is like a gore slasher.
oh, okay, like a slasher. Yeah. So again, like that's fine too. I if it's done in a way that works as opposed to just we're doing it because we have to, you know. I don't know. There's this weird thing that happens with some movies where they're like, forget plot, forget characters, and forget quality. Just do, blank. Whether that be like, just get up there and improvise, or just, do some body horror, or do some slasher things, or like, just do this thing, no one cares. Um, and sometimes they just accidentally become cult hits and become better or become worse or etc. Like it's weird when those I don't like those kinds of movies where it's just so clear you're here for a shtick and it's not there's nothing like below the surface, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't like that kind of thing.
I don't know enough about this franchise to know if this falls into that category.
Yeah.
All I know is that it's like considered one of the goriest movies. I think or like it's grotesque. I don't know. Every once in a while you see these headlines where it's like the most grotesque movie of 2024, like whatever that means, right? So, I don't know. We've talked about this before on the show, Mike. Even though I'm a horror fan, I don't typically watch slasher flicks. So the Terrifier franchise doesn't really appeal to me on surface level. I am curious because it is getting a lot of buzz, and it's already in its third installment. So clearly there's an audience out there for these movies. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be dabbling in the Terrifier movies. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how I put them, and again, we might have some horror fans come for me, and feel free to correct me. Mike's not going to get to your question until 2025 anyways, because there's 40 questions ahead of you. But
42.
42 ahead of you. To me, this feels like the same way that the Pearl movies, or like the X trilogy, Pearl, X, and Maxine, the Ty West movies.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the buzz around those movies seems similar to the buzz around these Terrifier movies. I don't think that they're probably not comparable movies in terms of horror genre. Like, they're both horror movies, but I haven't seen either franchise, so I don't want to compare the movies. Like, it's probably comparing apples to oranges. What I'm trying to say, my words. It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday. But I feel like the buzz is the same. Kind of like maybe the first and second movie kind of went under the radar, but like enough people caught up and watched it that like the buzz around the third movie is huge. Because I felt like the buzz around Maxine, like everyone was so excited to see Maxine when no one had heard of X, 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So anyways, we'll see. I still want to, speaking of the X trilogy or whatever it's called, I still want to watch those movies. So maybe I'll make it to Terrifier, but I want to watch Pearl, X, and Maxine first.
Yeah, that's kind of more your speed, I'd say, than mine. But yeah, I've just been hearing a lot about it, seeing a lot about it. There isn't. I was commenting about this before. There just doesn't seem to be much by the way of Halloween stuff that really has caught my eye this Halloween season. Like, so Terrifier 3 is obviously coming out, and then they've got that Smile 2, which the first Smile movie was good. Like, it was surprised me that that was so good. But to me, it doesn't seem like it would work for a sequel. The one that I am excited about is Women of the Hour, which I think debuts.
Oh, with what's her name?
Kendrick. Yeah. Where she seems to be some sort of contestant on like a dating show, but one of the guys that she can pick from is a serial killer. Like,
it's a true story. Do you know the story, Mike?
It's a true story. No.
So the serial killer was like active in the 70s. I want to say in California, if I'm remembering correctly. And during the course of his killings, he went on a dating show, like a national dating show. But obviously, like, the audience doesn't know that he's a serial killer. That during the course of his killings, he goes on this show. I'm also, as a true crime fan, obviously interested in this movie. Not a huge fan of Anna Kendrick, and she also is directing it, Mike.
Oh, interesting.
I think this is her directorial debut.
I was about to say, I didn't know she directed things.
Yeah. I saw a clip where it was like, she must be like retelling the story about how she ends up directing, but I only saw a very brief clip, and it's like, and she was like telling the interviewer, am I about to pitch myself to direct this movie? And already I was so turned off. I was like,
that would get you. Yeah, that would do it. That would get you.
Like, no. So Anna Kendrick, no one could direct, and it had to be you. Is that what you're saying? To be fair, I didn't watch the whole interview. I'm obviously taking that clip out of context, but longtime listeners of the show know
they know
that irks me.
And it always reminds me of this. This is a sports thing, but there's this particular owner who owns a team, and normally in sports you like own a team and then you hire a president and a general manager.
Sure.
But he named himself the president and general manager
because he knows best.
Of course. And the joke that they always make on like sports shows and stuff is that you wake up one morning, you look in the mirror and you go, that's my guy. you're it. I'm going to hire you. And every time that happens, when someone like picks themselves to direct a movie that they're producing or whatever, that's the thing, is like you looked in the mirror and went, you're it. You're my director.
No one else understands this story but
it's
me.
It's the producer's moment. That's our Hitler. Like it's the very, very famous Mel Brooks line. Um, and
I
that's the
don't know.
moment, right, where you
It
think,
just so rubs me the wrong way. Do you know if she's also written it and is producing, or is it just a matter of her starring and
if she's
directing?
starring and directing, she has to be producing it.
You think so?
Like that, well,
Is
that
that
would be
normally
really,
how it works?
yeah, that would be really weird. Like, even if she's not a main producer, she'd be an executive producer. Like
Right.
that will happen. Um, I don't know about writing though. I don't know about the writing credits for this one. I saw a very quick preview. And actually, funny story, I saw the preview while I was choosing something to watch for this week, and I thought it already came out. But I was a week too early. It was like it's
Is
coming out
it
next week.
is it coming to theaters or to streaming?
To streaming, to Netflix. Like it's a Netflix film, I think, or it might have been in other theaters and stuff. But we here in Canada, we're getting it this
I
Friday, I
guess
think. Yeah,
I guess I know what I'm watching, Mike.
yeah. I think I'm probably watching it too.
All right,
I
well that'll be
just
fun.
remembered this. No, she's not credited as a writer. So it's
Okay.
Ian McDonald is the only credited writer on this. Um, Wrote Superman Returns.
I don't
And
know if that's any
that
good.
is it.
It's gonna be
That
interesting.
is the credits.
It's a juicy the funny thing is it's a juicy enough story that's like and it's a true story, so it's like you probably don't need to be a huge excellent writer. It's not like you came up with that story on your own. We'll see what the dialogue is like.
That's right. It's
That's
the dialogue. The story
yeah.
may still be very compelling, but the dialogue might be where you see like some things there. But I mean, if that makes you feel better, she didn't write it, so it's possible she's not even necessarily a high level producer on it. But I often in film, when you give money back or you take less than normal, you get a producer credit out of it. If she's directing and this becomes like a passion project of hers, she'll probably be producing it in some capacity.
Right.
But if it makes you feel any better, completely different writer, so that
What do you feel
helps.
about Anna Kendrick? To me, she's kind of like a fine.
I like her. Yeah.
We'll see.
I again, like, she was in A Simple Favor, so I mean that just like that ruins many people for me. But I thought she's been good in a lot of films that I've seen her in. Like I think she's been pretty solid. Um, but I think I'm limited to, I saw her in A Simple Favor, the three Pitch Perfect movies, and maybe
Twilight.
like Twilight. Like that's probably it. Like I can't off the top of my head name another Anna Kendrick movie.
See,
So
I guess again I'm being unfair to her because I know her from the Twilight movies and the Pitch Perfect movies, and it's like, yeah, she's fine in
she's
those.
done other things. That's the thing. Like I think she's done other things. I just don't know. I just can't name them for you. You know what I mean? Like I don't even think I've seen her other stuff, but she has. Like she's been a working actor for a while. She was nominated for something, wasn't she?
Oh, good for her. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a little preview to what next week might be, I guess. Um, Before we move on, I wanted to give a quick shout out to a fun film related project that I'm working on in the Ottawa region called the 48-Hour Film Project. This is actually a national event that has a variety of these film festival kind of things in cities across the world. So there's one in Toronto, there's one in Montreal, and now there's one in Ottawa. And the not-for-profit that we're sort of aligned with for this podcast, Soul One Arts, that's who's sort of the city producer behind the 48-Hour Film Project. So we're bringing it to Ottawa. I'm working on it. It's basically this competition, Taylor, where you, on a Friday at 7 o'clock, you get assigned a genre, a prop, a line from a famous movie, and a character that you have to include in your film. And then you're given 48 hours to script, film, and edit a short film.
Ooh. I would have a panic attack. I don't like anything that has a timer.
I think this would be the type of thing that would be fun for you and I, and maybe a select group of our dedicated listeners could throw a team together and put a film in, because it yes, you're right, it's kind of wild to think like how are you going to do this, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a lot of fun.
No, it sounds amazing. The fact that it's kind of like movies out of a hat and you're then
Yeah,
making the movie.
that's right, but you have to make the film, and it's really cool because you can plan things out to a certain degree. Like you definitely could have a script in mind and an idea in mind, but then suddenly you're assigned a western. You know,
Right.
you're assigned a genre that's randomly pulled from the hat. And oh, by the way, here's a spatula that you have to include, and your line is, "We're going to need a bigger boat," and you have to include a I don't know, like the character would be like an orthodontist.
Right.
You know, you have to like figure a way to like shoehorn it in. And I always love that kind of stuff. It takes me back to my good old theater days, where
Theater.
one of the exercises we would be given is we'd be given this like scene to work through, and it's like you have to incorporate this one line, "Past the salt" was ours, into the scene somehow. And I always find that those things to be a lot of fun when you don't know what to expect and you're thrown something, and creatively you just have to figure out what's going on. So the 48-hour film project is coming to Ottawa for anyone who might be interested or in the area. They're holding open auditions for actors next week, and team registration is still open. You can go to 48hourfilm.com for more, or so1arts.ca for more information on the project. It's November 1st to the 3rd is the filming weekend. So that's the only weekend you have to be available for, because you don't want to lose 1 hour of those 48 hours.
Do you have to live in Ottawa? Can someone just come into the
Oh, no.
city?
No, you can just travel in. So Toronto, which has had this for a very long time, they have something like 40 teams that enter, and people travel from all over the place. There's people in Ottawa who would go to Toronto just to do this. Or you could film it anywhere you want, really, so long as you get the information you need. You can film it wherever you are and just submit it digitally, and then you just have to come to the screening event,
Got it.
obviously. But yeah, if you want to film from Kingston, if you want to film from upstate New York and just submit a film, you're more than welcome. Doesn't matter where you're from. You could do things online. Just reach out to us, ask for some details, and we'll help you make it happen. But it's kind of just a fun competition weekend. I think it's if you're a big film fan, if you're someone filmmaking, you can do it on your phone. You can film on camera. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter
That
how
is
experienced you are. Just have fun.
so. Are you going to be? You're more like
Administrative
Yeah,
support.
that's the word I
Let's
was
call
looking
it.
for.
Yeah.
You're
I will
you're
be there.
organizing
That's
it.
right. That's right. I will
Right.
not be involved.
Will you be judging?
I will not be a judge. No, we're going to get judges from the local film festivals here in
Fun.
Ottawa, which is a lot of fun. So you'll be judged by them, and the winner of the competition gets their short film into one of the film festivals, and they can enter it in the national celebration of the 48. So the 48-hour film festival has like its own national event each year where they show all the winners from every community. So you'll be representing Ottawa and get your I think it's in Seattle this year. So you'd get your
Really
film
cool.
shown in Seattle. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Check it out, 48-hour film project. Find one. There's also one in Montreal. They're all over the place. So I know our listeners are from all over. Just see if your community has them, because there's a bunch in the US, a bunch in Canada, across the pond, as they say, in Europe.
I should end the show today with, instead of go see some movies, go make some movies.
Yeah, go make a movie. And that leads me to sort of a quick question for you, Taylor. I'm going to put you on the spot, which you don't like. If you had to plan one of these things, knowing that you don't know your genre, you don't know your character, et cetera, would you be the type of person that would feel better about building the idea of your film first? Like, what would you do? Do you have a thought in mind of, oh, I could do a really quick short film about blank? Do you have anything in mind that you would do that you think would help to kind of prepare yourself for this type of thing?
Yeah, I have an idea that I could pull out of my back pocket and do like a 20-minute. How long are the movies typically?
They can be kind of a variety of lengths, but usually they end up being around the sort of 7 to 10 minute mark.
Right. when I was still in grad school, one afternoon, my best friend Aaron and I thought it would be really easy to write a movie script. We thought, oh, we could bang that out
Of
in
course.
an
We've all been
afternoon.
there.
Yeah. And we got, we were at the beach. We were just, or whatever. Then we get back home, get my laptop. It was not as easy as, as we thought, but I could use that idea. It would be kind of the idea, and no one can steal this, but essentially like a throwback to like an 80s teen movie, um sort of like an 80s teen beach movie, and
Yeah.
kind of base it a little bit on my mom's high school experience. And that could really easily be adapted to
Any genre, really.
drama,
Yeah.
comedy, horror. You could even make it a western. Move the
For
beach. The
sure.
beach becomes the desert.
The
So
desert. Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
I
see, that's
would,
a example of a really good
yeah.
idea that would be adaptable for this kind of like festival. Like that's really cool.
And I would be the person like, let's draft the screenplay in advance,
Yeah.
because I'm just thinking 48 hours, like in my mind, the longest thing is like is storyboarding and script writing. And probably editing.
Editing. Yeah.
And
The filming would be the shortest part of
yeah.
it. Really. Yeah.
So I would want to reserve as much time for editing, I think. So get the story done as quickly as possible. I would want the bare bones of a script going into this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would probably do the same thing, which to me that makes it kind of more interesting. Like you build your bare bones of your script, and then you say, okay, now I'm ready to find a moment to insert these elements that I must include. I think that's the smarter way to do it, and take some of the pressure off. If you have it kind of more or less scripted and storyboarded, you can just jump into filming right away and then move on to editing. So I think that's a really good idea. So there you go, 48-hour film project. Check it out. Learn more on all the socials and internets and etc. This day and age, you just have to Google stuff, and you'll find it. Before we get to our movies, I think you had a trailer that you.
I do have a trailer
watched.
that I want to talk about, but I also wonder, Mike, if you want to pull one or two of our million questions before we even get to the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it open. But
I can talk about the trailer first. So Nicole messaged me today, a friend of the show, friend of Nicole. She was or a friend of Taylor, sorry. Friend of herself. Friend of herself. Clearly she was messaging you and I, but very different things. So she sent me the trailer for the new Osgood Perkins. Good for him. He just put out Longlegs this past spring, and already his next movie is coming out. So good for Osgood. If I said Oswald, I apologize. It's Osgood. So if people remember, probably now a couple weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, I reviewed Longlegs, which had a ton of buzz, which I think is well deserved. So this next movie is The Monkey, which is an upcoming American supernatural horror film written and directed by Osgood Perkins, and it's based on the 1980 short story by Stephen King. So talk about gory, lots of blood, lots of violent deaths in this movie. And it looks like it also looks kind of funny. So I wonder if it's going to be a horror comedy, or it was just like a very quirky edit. So fans of Longlegs, you can look forward to Monkey. That's coming out February 21st, 2025. Mike, can you believe that we're already so far into 2024 that we're going to be teasing movies about 2025 now?
I mean, in 2 weeks it's Halloween, and then suddenly we're into November.
So
and all we're going to be talking about is 2025 movies, the Oscars, because we're going to start getting all those films. Like, yeah, I not only can I not believe it, I don't even know how to react. This year, I don't know what happened. I really don't.
It flew by. I mean, every year flies by, but the older I get, the quicker the time goes. And so it looks quite good. I think fans of Longlegs are gonna like are going to be definitely interested in this movie. I don't think tonally that this movie is going to be for everyone, but then again, Long Legs wasn't for everyone. So
No.
I'm certainly looking forward to it, which is fun that already in 2025, there's a couple of movies on my radar. So The Monkey, check out the trailer and see what you guys think.
Okay. One fan question.
Okay.
And we will plan a mailbag.
Probably after Halloween.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we'll do. Okay, fan question here. Okay, no name, anonymous, through the website. This question specifically is for you, Taylor.
Oh,
Taylor, as also a big horror fan, I have to say my biggest pet peeve with horror movies are too many jump scares because, frankly, I'm a scaredy cat. Do you have any specific horror movie recommendations that don't have too many jump scares but still leave you unsettled and feeling scary? I'm somebody that does scare easily, but I do really love being scared, especially this time of year. I will only watch horror movies the week before Halloween and, of course, on Halloween night. Any recommendations would be lovely.
wow, that's a very you're a very regimented person that you only watch it the week of Halloween.
That's like
Um
7 days of horror movies a year.
so
That's
you
it.
better make them good. I talk about this movie a lot when we get into our lists of favorite horror movies. If my memory serves, because I have only watched this movie once. I saw it in theaters, and to me, this is a little bit of a tease to our Halloween list that we're going to reveal on our Halloween episode. But this is one of those movies that scared me so bad and I thought was so good. But because it was so scary, I haven't felt the need to revisit it. And that movie is It Follows. Mike, there's no jump scares in that movie. You literally see the thing. Like, that's like part of the reason why it's so unnerving. Would you agree? I'm trying to think back. I don't think there's jump scares.
There's not, no, because it's pretty much like you're
You
saying. You
It
see
follows, like
the
the
thing. It
title.
follows. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would describe that movie as constantly unsettling.
Oh my gosh. That movie is just, that's why I haven't rewatched it. It is so stressful. So scary. So that would be like top of the list in terms of no jump scares, but genuinely scary and also just like a very good movie.
Yeah,
The Witch also scared
that's a
me.
yeah, that's a good choice for this because there aren't jump scares in that, but it's definitely
No.
unnerving and unsettling.
That movie's not going to be for everyone. It's the director that I really like that I can never pronounce his name, Robert Eggers. Robert or
Eggers.
Rogers. I see, I always mix.
Robert Eggers.
And Mike always does the exact same thing. So the director of Nosferatu, my most anticipated movie of the year, cannot wait. Don't think I'm going to see it on Christmas, but maybe I'll drag Dan to the movies. We'll see. That could be my Christmas present. So his first movie, right, Mike? This is his first movie, The Witch.
The Witch, yeah.
This
Yeah.
came out pre-pandemic. I want to say like 2017, 2016.
Oh yeah, because Anya Taylor-Joy was young. Like she was very young. Yeah.
It takes place in Puritan England, and essentially it's the time of the witch trials. A family has been ostracized from their community. We don't know why, and supernatural or strange things start happening. Why this movie won't be for everyone? It's in black and white. It's period correct, and the dialogue is taken from the transcripts of actual witch trials. So it's spoken in sort of old English.
Yeah.
I think there might even have subtitles in that movie, Mike. Or am I?
I didn't watch it with subtitles, but maybe you can have them on.
Because I saw it in the theaters. So again, that's another movie that I've only seen once, saw it in the theaters. It's another very unnerving, and I personally found it scary. I think hardcore slasher fans probably won't be too interested in this movie, but for people who like paranormal, supernatural, very atmospheric. So those would be my top two. No jump scares as far as I can remember. So I apologize if there is one or two jump scares, but these movies definitely don't rely on jump scares. So I think they're a safe bet. And they kind of have very different feel.
Mhm.
Another movie, Mike, and this might be completely out of left field. No, I don't think this would be a recommendation for this woman. I was going to say Killing of a Sacred Deer. That movie's not scary, but it's also like a very tense psychological thriller kind of. But no jump scares in that. But that's not really like a horror movie. Would you say? Not really.
Not really, no.
Yeah. So stick with It Follows and The Witch,
The Witch,
and also another movie that scares the pants off of me that I have not been able to rewatch, which I've mentioned before on the show, The Visit.
Oh yes,
Um
yeah. There are
I
some jump scares in that though.
Yes.
There are a couple.
Mild.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's another
We're dealing with someone who said they're like really a scaredy cat,
so
so I just assumed
skip
even
that
the
one.
mild. Yeah,
Skip
it's
that one.
not. Yeah, I can't think of anything that doesn't have jump scares. But those two are both good. That you named two very good ones. The kinds of horror movies I like, which is very atmosphere driven. Yeah, those are good. There you go. We'll get to these fan questions. We promise. Maybe we. Yeah, it's all right. Never mind. You also said something, Taylor, that I just wanted to double check. So we're doing a list for Halloween. Might as well talk about it now. We'll
You
tease
told
into it.
me. You said you
I
want
told you. Oh, okay.
Yep, you said let's make a list of the movies because we have new listeners who didn't listen to the old show. So for new listeners, we have almost 6 years, 5 years of Halloween episodes. Typically, we would give if it's not a specific thematic Halloween episode, typically we would give a list like favorite horror movies or favorite haunted house movies. I think I did one year. This year, Mike, you said because of the new listeners who haven't been listening to our lists over the years, we should list our top scary or like scariest movies, the scariest movies we've ever seen.
All right.
You don't remember talking about
Nope.
this.
I
And
don't.
then I told you, how about you text Matt, who is a has come on the old show. Why don't you text Matt and ask him to assign us the scariest movie to watch?
I did do that.
Yeah? And did he
did do
text
that.
back?
He did. he gave a lot actually. Let's do this on air.
Is this ringing any bells?
let me give you his response.
Okay.
He said it's a toss up. The Shining is a classic. The Haunting of Julia. Then he said some things I can't say on air. Scared the something out of me when I was younger. I picked it up on Blu-ray last year after it was out of circulation, and it's still scary.
Okay.
Silent Hill, word I can't say, hemmed up. But that one, he, as he finds older, is a little bit less. But then he gave me some stuff about the real world because the real world's now scary. He talked about his age and the real world is now scary. And he gave me some movies that are not quite what we were looking for.
I had a feeling he was going to go the existential route.
But The Shining, The Haunting of Julia, I have not seen. I don't know what that is.
No, neither do I.
So that would be interesting. And then this particular movie, Soft and Quiet, which only came out a couple of years ago. Seems to be kind of a real world sort of connection thing that looks like more, again, not necessarily like a scary movie, but an unsettling movie that looks like pretty intense. So that one's also looks kind of interesting. So we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, Matt's a big horror movie fan, and those are some. I agree with him about Silent Hill. The first time I saw that movie did some damage. I don't think I've ever revisited it though.
I can't say I've watched all of it.
Silent Hill?
Yeah.
I was in the theaters, like I had to, because they came out when I was younger.
Right.
And I think I went with people, like maybe I was a teenager, so I had to sit through it. But
and you wanted to leave.
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was a great movie, but it was scary and unsettling. But in ways I don't like, so.
Maybe we'll watch The Haunting of Julia because neither one of us have watched that one.
That would be a good one because we haven't seen it, and clearly Matt's saying it holds up. So we can,
Might
if we can
just
find that, that might be a good
yes,
one.
we'll do some investigation work, see if we can rent it or stream it. It sounds like it was out of circulation, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But we'll circle back closer to Halloween to see if we want to pin that one down. Did he want to come on the show? Did you also ask him that? Did he answer
I
that?
did ask him. I did ask him, but he didn't respond to that
Okay.
part. So
All right.
I'll follow up on that. I'll follow
Sounds
up on
good.
that. You know, Halloween's 2 weeks away.
I mean, time has no meaning. That sounds about right. I'm looking at the calendar and it's
Wait,
this.
saying we'll follow up closer to Halloween. You mean next week?
Yeah,
We'll talk about
next
this
week.
again next week, and then it's Halloween because our show will be on the 30th. Like we'll be
Yeah, I guess you're right, Mike. We'll follow up next Wednesday when we record to finalize what we're going to talk about on the 30th, the
Yeah,
week
and we'll
later.
do it on air because people love when we
Yeah,
when we do that.
when we pull the curtain away.
That's right. But we do have some stuff to talk about this week. We've got some movies to review. You turned back the clock a bit and reviewed a movie from 1979 called Tourist Trap, which I actually haven't heard of. So I'll be interested to hear about that from you.
Sure.
And then I reviewed a new movie, Will and Harper, which is a documentary. However, I did just realize something. Apparently this movie released in January, but it must have been just to film festivals because
it was at TIFF.
It was at TIFF. Okay,
yeah.
So it did the film festival run,
yes,
and now it's in wide view. Like now you can get
distribution.
It on okay.
Yeah,
that makes. I was like, there's no way I completely missed this, but okay, that makes more sense.
It made a lot of buzz. In the I want to say September. That's when TIFF is, and
yeah.
Apparently, I think it might have won fan favorite or whatever TIFF does, like one of the fan choice awards. So it's been getting a lot of buzz.
Well, why don't we start there then? That's a good segue right into Will and Harper. So this, I didn't actually know much about this, honestly. When I turned it on, I was looking for something, and I'm like, oh, try this. I definitely have heard some buzz, so I didn't know much. But basically, this is a documentary that's also a road trip movie. It's basically Will Ferrell has famous. He calls himself in the first frame of this documentary trailer the world's greatest actor.
Yeah.
He has a close friend of 30 years who comes out to him as a trans woman. So they decide to go on this cross-country road trip. I'm not 100% sure if the road trip or the cross-country thing is like a connection to their friendship. I know Harper, who's Will Ferrell's friend, I know she used to do these sorts of things. Loves America, loved traveling, went to all these places. So Will Ferrell decides, you know what, I'll go with you. And because things are different now. There's a certain level of comfort that's different. There's a certain level of feeling comfortable in certain situations that Harper's fearful that she's not going to feel that way now. And Will Ferrell says, well, I'll come with you as sort of a buffer. And I think that is where the documentary kind of takes off. It's the two of them starting in, I want to get this right, New York City. They go down to like Indianapolis, kind of through like the Midwest, Ohio, and then they end up in Texas, Vegas, and then Los Angeles, California. Like that's kind of the road that they go.
The route.
And basically it's even though it's a documentary, it follows the structure of a road trip movie. It's about these two friends traveling from location to location, and in the sort of scenes where you're transitioning from one place to another, you learn about Harper's story, their friendship, and all these sort of nuances of Harper's life and how she came to kind of this point in life and everything kind of moving forward. And then you stop to do whatever road trippy moment there is. They visit like a basketball game in Indianapolis. They go to a bar somewhere in Ohio. They go to a kind of meat, I don't know, it's like a steakhouse in Texas.
So it's kind of almost like a travelogue.
Yeah, and
like a travel documentary.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it feels like. So there's the obvious emotional character drive that I think this movie has, where you're talking about like the journey of Harper Steele, who I guess used to write for SNL. and that's how they met. That's how Will Ferrell and Harper Steele met, was through their time at Saturday Night Live. So through the like comedy writing, etc. And I guess Harper Steele is responsible for a lot of movies that Will Ferrell did leaving Saturday Night Live. Was either involved in writing or producing or something, like in terms of kind of working through a variety of Will Ferrell's career. So there's a long friendship that spans like 30 something years. And this documentary kind of just follows their journey. We've talked about this kind of thing a lot on this show, where documentaries are hard to review as films because there's a structure, and the subject matter of each movie is either going to appeal to you or it's not.
Right.
And there's not a lot of like creative filmmaking, frankly, that I think goes into documentaries. I think there's creative ways you can edit. I think there's certain things you can do. And to the credit of this documentary, one of the things they did exceptionally well was that balance between comedy and heart. Having a heartfelt moment and not having comedy undercut it, but going from heartfelt scene, emotional scene, dramatic moment to comedy and back. It was done expertly, like really, really well done, where you laughed at the right spots, you felt at the right spots. This movie gets pretty emotional, Taylor, because as you could imagine, problems begin when they get to Texas.
Sure.
We don't have to go into 100% why, but we all know why. So it becomes this sort of the anxiety you feel, the kind of trip that you're on as an audience member is what's going to happen now? They're going to this sleazy bar. What's going to happen? They're going to this basketball game. What's going to happen? They're going to this steakhouse. What's going to happen? They're going to this like Vegas, I don't know, like club, and Will Ferrell has dressed up in a disguise so people will stop recognizing him. What's going to happen, right? Like it's all these kind of different things. And I think that the documentary does a really good job of taking you through this story and showing you kind of like, I feel like I got a little glimpse into the life of Harper Steele, the difficulty of the past couple of years, why where she is now is so much better than where she was before. And I think most importantly, in the point of this documentary, the friendship and bond between these two people, which I think the documentary did a great job. Where I felt it faltered a little bit was I thought I was missing a lot. There was a lot of information, terminology, and things that were kind of used throughout this movie that I think they took for granted that your audience is 100% going to understand.
Right.
So I would describe myself, Taylor, as a man of the people. You know, I'm worldly, right?
Earthy.
Earthy. Like I know I'm not in a silo or a box, right? I've heard of things. I'm not going to be like, what is going on here? There were terms that were used. There was language that was used. I had to look up, and I think
that's a failure of the documentary because
that, exactly,
to me, a documentary is like an essay or like a book where you're writing as if your audience has no familiarity with the topic.
That's right. And they did not do that in this documentary. That's one thing. So I think the director of this film, Josh Greenbaum, I think I've heard this name before, but I don't know from where. I just know. So either I've heard of some of the films worked, or maybe he's worked closely with Will Ferrell before or something. But I've definitely heard a bit of a younger director, and I felt like the emotion and the heart, 10 out of 10, hit all those marks. But in terms of, I'm trying to find the right words of when you have subject matter exactly the way you put it, Taylor. You didn't do anything to teach, educate, or describe things to me. And I'm not saying like educate in the way of like I'm stupid, like.
But I watch a documentary because I'm going to learn about a topic.
100%. And I feel like I got a list of things to look up later, but I didn't feel like I learned what I wanted to from the film itself. I felt like there was a part of me that was like, oh, I guess I should have just known these things. And I don't think that
But
is what you want.
you don't know
What
what you don't know. I wonder if it was a
Sure,
choice being like, now you're going to go on the internet and research and educate yourself.
sure, sure,
Maybe.
maybe.
Again, I don't think that that's like the best way to
No,
make a documentary.
I thought this
Um
movie wasn't too long either. Like I thought it was a pretty good length. So I feel like there's moments. What are you talking? Like 30 seconds to explain
well, and the
something?
framing device is perfect. You have Will Ferrell, and I've seen I read something that essentially part of this movie is that, Will Ferrell, his friend is essentially his entry point into the trans world, I guess you could
That's
say.
right.
Like
That's
he
right.
prior to his friend's transition, this was not his world, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
your framing device is built in where even if it's a little bit scripted, but let's face it, documentaries
All documentaries
are
are. Yeah, of
scripted. You would
course.
have moments where, and you said the it's Harper
Harper.
is the
Harper.
friend.
Yeah.
So Harper says a word, and then Will Ferrell, who's a comedian known for playing kind of the dumb guy, goes,
Asks
"Well,
the
what's
question.
that? What's that?"
Exactly. And they had so many great opportunities because the framing device that I really liked was you go from, okay, you're in New York City and they have dinner with Harper's kids and they talk a little bit. And Will Ferrell does a great job of like asking the kids, what was it like for you? And now, your parent has changed. And what does that mean? And they talk about, and like those were really well done. And then they had this great framing device of them in the car. They would always go them in the car before we get to the next town or city or whatever, not province, states. It's in the U.S., not Canada, and that's the perfect moment. And I feel like we got some of it where Will Ferrell would ask a couple questions, Harper would give answers. Harper would ask questions of Will Ferrell, but like basically like from your perspective,
Right.
and they would talk, and they did a good job in some things and some moments giving us more information. Like they met this congressperson from Indianapolis who kind of reacted a little weird, and then later we found out like this congressperson's like totally against the trans community, and like we talked about, and they used the car as this framing device to discuss it. But I feel like there was just so many missed opportunities where just take 30 more seconds and do exactly what you said, Taylor. Have Will Ferrell, even if he knows, just have him ask the question. It's a simple direction. And the idea, like, again, documentaries are scripted and they're staged. They're using real people as opposed to necessarily actors. Will Ferrell's not playing a character; he's being himself. And there's still a director. There's just no script where the director would stop something like, okay, can we get that again? Like there's moments from reality shows where I don't know if you've ever watched bloopers or anything where someone's like crying and upset, and then they yell cut, and the director comes in and says, yeah, can we actually get you to do that a little bit more? And the person's like, oh yeah, okay, sure, cry more, okay, like just as if they were acting. So I think there was a missed opportunity to do some of those things because again, target audiences, I actually think I'm your target for this kind of film because you have this opportunity to educate, to learn, to grow. And yes, I'm the type of person who might say, oh, I should go look this up, but not everyone would do that. And I also think a film, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have a dictionary or the internet next to you when watching a movie. The movie should do the work to explain
I
and
think
educate
that's
and guide.
what you're describing to me is a failure of the
Yeah, of the
documentary.
documentarian.
Like it
Yes,
might
yeah.
have been like I think just if there were things that you didn't understand, they
Yeah.
should have fleshed it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's any different of obviously in this documentary, they didn't have the quote unquote talking heads, like the experts that you interview.
Yeah, no, not
They
really.
didn't
No.
have sort of like interviews, but to me, it's what we've described of like Harper saying something and then Will Ferrell asking a question or asking for clarification. That's no different than using a talking head in a documentary.
And
It's
it
not like
wouldn't
it's
have been
inauthentic.
and it wouldn't have been a
Weird.
negative on anyone or weirder. Like you could have easily made it work. All in all, I still really enjoyed the documentary. I think there's a lot of heart. There's a lot of humor. I was torn between see it and stream it because it did lose points for me in terms of that one element. But I'm still going to give it a see it because I think it's worth seeing. I think it's entertaining. It's interesting. There's moments of heart. There's moments of drama. I think there's a lot of people out there who are going to love this movie, and I think this movie existing and Will Ferrell kind of being behind it, it is nothing but good things. So I'm going to say see it to Will and
Okay.
Harper. Another kind though, so mine was a road trip movie. Yours was about tourists. Both trips.
The loose
Yeah,
connection.
the trips. Yeah.
That's essentially where the connections begin and end.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was sick over Thanksgiving weekend, and I needed something that would not be difficult for me to watch, if that makes sense. I needed a movie that if I closed my eyes halfway through, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So I went on I thought, I've had a horror movie streak, Mike. And since we're in October, I thought I want to keep this streak up. I think for the rest of October, I'll keep reviewing horror movies. For new listeners, they probably think that I'm like the horror correspondent. I swear I review other movies. It just seems to be.
It's just October.
It's just October. And then, it was leading up to October and catching up on horror movies that I had missed during the year. So anyways,
that's true. You have done a lot of horror
I've
movies.
done a lot of horror movies. I promise you. And for non-horror fans, I promise that there will be other movies that I review. It's October right now. So I thought I want sort of a cozy horror movie. So a little bit schlocky, a little bit corny. And so I thought, okay, I want to watch like a 70s or 80s cult classic. And typically they're of the slasher genre. So I'm looking on Amazon. So I was going to watch this one or like Slumber Party Massacre. But this one I think had like a 0.5 rating higher than Slumber Party Massacre, I think is the name of it, which is from, I think, the 80s. So this movie came out in 79. When I went on Wikipedia, I don't know if it's considered a cult classic, although it's been reissued a couple times, which makes me think there's obviously an audience for it. They released it on DVD, cutting 5 minutes, and then they re-released it on DVD and maybe Blu-ray several years later, adding the 5 minutes. I'm not sure the cut I watched. I didn't compare runtimes because I just streamed it on Amazon. So, but the fact that it's always in circulation makes me think that there's some sort of cult following around this movie. No one was recognizable to me. I didn't recognize any of the actors. I don't know if it's like a famous slasher director. No idea. I went in pretty blind other than it's on Amazon. So the movie is young adults of an indiscriminate age. Like I cannot tell if they're supposed to be university students, or I think they made the reference. One of them is in law school, maybe, but he looks like he's 40. But again, everyone looks like they were in their 40s in the 70s. So I'm not sure.
That's very common.
I'm not sure. But essentially, it's 4 friends who are on a car trip. I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but it's like a day trip. And then one of their cars is broken down. So one of them has gone into a tourist trap to get help. He obviously is quickly dispatched by the murderer, and then the 3 other friends, essentially their car breaks down and they end up in this tourist trap, not like unknowingly that it's the same one that their friend had earlier encountered. And so it's this I saw one review afterwards after I watched it describing it as like a little weird movie. It is weird. It's the murderer has psychokinetic abilities, and I read that was added to the script later. He wasn't supposed to have psychokinetic, so like the ability to like move things with his mind. That wasn't originally in the script. It definitely feels weird that he could do that.
That's a real interesting late addition.
Yeah, it's like we
need to throw this in here.
They literally wrote like, oh, he's a crazed murderer. Oh, you know what would make the script better? If he has psychokinetic powers. So anyways, it's definitely weird. It's a weird movie. The acting this movie is exactly what, if you go in knowing, okay, I'm about to watch a corny 1970s slasher. I think people will really enjoy this. It's
Yeah.
kind of silly. The acting's not great. The kill scenes are a little bit goofy, but it's just like a fun way to spend like an hour and a half. When I mean cozy, it's just like cozy in the sense that like I'm not like our dear anonymous wrote in earlier. I'm not actually going to be scared watching the movie, but I'm going to have fun watching it.
Yeah.
So I thought that the character design for the killer was pretty cool. The plot twist, I kind of had to do mental gymnastics to make it work, and I later went on the Wikipedia page to like read the plot synopsis to see if I was missing something. It's like, nope, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you kind of just have to, this is one of those movies where you just have to turn your brain off and just go along for the ride. So all that to say, this movie is a light stream it because it's definitely a very, very specific genre. Like Mike, you would never watch this movie. Like it would not interest you. There would be no reason for you to watch it. But if you're someone like me who's just like, whatever, throw on a B movie, throw on a cult classic, I'm going to giggle a little bit. I'm not going to be too spooked, but I'm going to like be intrigued by the mystery of it all. It's, go out and find it on Amazon. But so light stream it. I would say probably, well, we have a bunch of weirdos who listen to us, Mike. So I was going to be like 99% of our listeners aren't going to want to watch this. I'll make it more like,
I don't know about that. Yeah.
like 85% probably 85%, wouldn't want to watch this. But it's fine for the genre. So that's my ultimate review for Tourist Trap.
There you go. Tourist Trap. Well, thank you to all the weirdos out there for listening. We will, I guess, probably review that Anna Kendrick movie next week, and then our Halloween episode's the week after, if you can't believe it. So continue to write in. We will definitely answer some Halloween questions. We'll try to do that on Halloween, and then we will do a mailbag episode in November. So we'll get to all your fan questions. Thank you again for listening.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.